The galactic education system had never failed before. For 300 years, the consortium's Neuralink classrooms had operated without incident across 10,000 worlds, connecting species from every corner of known space in seamless virtual learning environments. But on Station Kepler 442, in Xenobiology Advanced Studies, the impossible happened. Emily Chen felt at first a sharp disconnect that sent electric shivers down her spine. Around her, the classroom's holographic interface flickered violently. Her classmates, representing 17 different species, began convulsing as their neural links misfired. The Therixian beside her collapsed, chitinous limbs thrashing. A Valoran student's crystalline form cracked with stress fractures. The instructor, Professor Zixtara, a being of pure energy contained within a containment field, destabilized into chaotic plasma. Emergency protocols should have activated. They didn't. Emily ripped the neural connector from her temple, gasping as reality snapped back. Blood trickled from her nose standard for emergency disconnection, but she was conscious. She was the only one conscious. Override Alpha 7. She shouted at the room's AI. Nothing. The system was completely dead. Yet somehow the malfunctioning neural links were still active, still frying her classmates' brains. Alexander Torres stirred nearby, groaning. The human exchange student from the Mars colonies had disconnected too, though his hands shook violently. What happened? No time, Emily snapped, already moving. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory, old military advice from humanity's preconceived days. When the system fails, become the system. She sprinted to the emergency locker, smashing the manual release when the biometric scanner failed to respond. Inside were 23 emergency disconnect tools, each calibrated for different alien physics. Emily had studied xenobiology for 4 years. She'd memorized this. She'd prepared for this, even though everyone said humans were paranoid for still keeping manual protocols. Alexander, I need you functional now. She tossed him a human-grade stimulant injector. He caught it reflexively, jabbed it against his neck. Clarity flooded his eyes. Tell me what to do. Emily was already at the first student, a Kelmorian whose respiratory system was shutting down. Watch my hands. Neural stem at the base of their primary cortex. Pressure point, not removal. We disconnect too fast. We cause permanent damage. Her fingers worked with precision, finding the alien anatomy she'd only studied in simulations. The Kelmorian's seizures stopped. 1 down, 26 to go. Alexander mimicked her movements on the next student, a reptilian, Skari. I've never done xenobiology emergency procedures. You're doing them now. Emily's voice carried absolute certainty. Skari have redundant neural pathways. You need to disconnect from both temples simultaneously. 3-second count, even pressure. They worked in synchronized chaos. Emily called out instructions for each species' physiology facts. Disconnect procedures, emergency stabilization. Alexander executed flawlessly, his hands steady, despite having no formal training. Around them, students stopped convulsing, one by one. 15 minutes felt like hours. The Therixian required careful exoskeleton manipulation. The Valoran needed harmonic frequency adjustment to their crystalline matrix. Professor Zixtara's containment had to be completely rebooted using an ancient manual interface that Emily remembered from an obscure safety lecture. When the last Studenta gaseous Ethan was finally stabilized in an emergency containment sphere, Emily collapsed against the wall. Her hands were raw, bleeding from handling incompatible alien technologies without proper protection. Alexander sat beside her, equally exhausted. How did you know all that? He asked. I studied. Humans always study the manuals everyone else ignores. The door bursts open. Station security, consortium medical teams, officials in gleaming uniforms flooded the room. They stopped, staring at 27 living students who should have been dead or brain damaged beyond recovery. Emily didn't remember much of what happened next. Medical scans, debriefings, something about a system-wide malware attack that had targeted educational stations across 3 sectors. Kepler 442 was the only facility with 0 casualties. She woke 3 days later in a private medical suite. Alexander sat in the corner, cleaned up but still showing signs of exhaustion. You're trending across every consortium network, he said, holding up a holographic display. They're calling it the Kepler miracle. Emily groaned. I just did what needed doing, that's not all. Alexander's expression turned serious. Earth's government issued an emergency proclamation. They've revived an old military designation, something from the pre-consortium expansion era. A hologram materialized above her beneficial seals from Earth's unified government. The Consortium Council, and symbols she didn't recognize. The text scrolled in a dozen languages simultaneously, by unanimous acclaim and in recognition of extraordinary valor in the face of unprecedented crisis. Emily Chen is hereby designated Vanguard of Humanity, First Guardian of the Forward Line. This title, dormant for 3 centuries, recognizes an individual who exemplifies humanity's greatest strength, the refusal to accept the unacceptable, and the capability to act when all systems fail. Emily stared at the display. That's insane. I'm a student. You saved 27 lives from 17 different species using knowledge most beings never bother learning and skills they thought were obsolete. Alexander leaned forward. The consortium is restructuring their entire educational safety protocol. Because of you. Because one human refused to let the system's failure become everyone else's death sentence. Outside her window, Emily could see Kepler Station's main concourse. Screens everywhere displayed her face alongside the Vanguard designation, a title that hadn't been used since humanity first joined the galactic community, when they were still proving themselves worthy. She touched the bandages on her hands, remembering the feel of alien neural stems, the weight of 27 lives counting on her to know what textbooks to remember, which procedures to execute, which risks to take. Vanguard, she whispered. The word felt heavy, ancient, important. Alexander smiled. They're saying it's the most human thing anyone's ever done, preparing for disasters everyone swore would never happen, then handling them anyway when they did. Emily closed her eyes. Exhausted but alive. Outside, the galaxy was learning what Earth had always known, when the impossible becomes real. You don't need a perfect system, you need someone who refuses to quit.